semester progress, students will able to learn details issue relating to the external and internal environment of a business. Mission statement, strategy formulation, and strategy implementation, or even a strategy evaluation and control. Basically, the course allows students to develop logical thinking, decision making, and leadership skills, which are critical for business and also their professional careers. Now, I'd like to highlight here with regards to the with regards to our syllabus. Our first chapter we're going to discuss about, I think I'm going to touch this today, is with regard to the overview of strategic management, which includes the area of what is strategic management, key business term in strategic management, and also the strategic management models, and also the benefits of strategic management, and why some firms do not know strategic planning, and the pitfalls in strategic planning, and also comparing business and military strategy, and the nature of global competition today. Next chapter that we're going to learn is with regard to the business vision and mission. And after that, we're going to discuss about the business mission. Then we look into the business vision and also the business and the mission statement. And after that, we try to look deeper into a mission statement, what are the components of a mission statement, besides looking into the importance or the benefit of vision and mission statement. You have to understand this because you must know what basically is a vision and mission of a business. And the other thing that we're going to discuss in the next chapter is with regard to the external assessment. External assessment, where that we are going to learn about the nature of external audit process. This is where you want to understand the external environment, of a business. And by looking into the key external factors and also the sources of external information. How do you get the information from with regards to the external source environment? What sources do you use? We're going to learn about that in chapter 3, and also the forecasting tools and techniques, and not forgetting the Porter 5 forces model of competitions. And one of the most important thing in the external assessment is with regards to the external factor evaluation metrics. This is where that you want to we learn about a metric that try to understand what are the components. We try to analyze the components of the external factors, and we try to look into what are the opportunities and threats that might be derived from the external situation. And on top of that, we also try to learn about the competitive profile metric by looking into the competition conditions of the particular industry that you are in. Then once we settle with chapter 3, the next chapter will be the internal assessment. The internal assessment is where that you're going to learn about the nature of internal process, audit process. This is where you try to understand about what are the strengths and weaknesses of the firm, and what are the key internal factors that are relevant to the situation, internal situations, and then also the relationship among the function areas of business, because we have to understand that most of the business have their own functional area, and what are the relationship among the functions. Before this, when we learn before this, most of the students learn this, they only learn about the structure of the business, and one of the business structure is functional area, functional kind of structure, and then some of them, most of the students only know what are the functional areas of business. But in this strategic management, you will try to understand how are you going to coordinate and try to manage all those functional area by understanding the relationship between among the functional areas of business. And after that, you go to internal audit checklist of questions, and followed by the IFE metric. Just now we mentioned about EFE metric, and in the internal assessment, we're going to understand about the IFE metric. IFE metric is more on a metric that you try to understand try to understand the internal environment. You don't have to get this from me because you're going to have the note, everything from the my lab later on. We're going to learn this from my lab. You're going to have all, even the textbook from my lab. Are you clear with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And then even later on, I explain to you how are we going to go about with the test. And for this document, this is a very confidential document. I cannot share with you, but I can brief you only. Okay. And then in terms of strategies in action, after that we settle with the internal environment assessment, followed up by these strategies in action. When you talk about strategies in action, we're talking about the long-term objective. You have to understand what are the long-term objective. When you do strategy, when you implement strategy, when you execute the strategy, you must understand what are the long-term objectives. Strategy are derived based on long-term objective. Long-term objectives are derived based on the internal and external environment that you scan. You see? So then after that, you develop many type of strategies for your firm. Then after that, you have to understand the guideline for pursuing strategies, because you cannot implement all the strategies for the firm. You cannot execute every single strategy for the firm because you need to prioritize due to the scarcity of resources of the firm, of the company. So you cannot implement all strategy. So we have to choose what are the best strategy for the firm for the particular situation. Then after that, we learn about the guideline for pursuing the strategy, which strategy is the best. Then follow up by the Porter 5 generic strategies. Porter 5 generic strategy is with regard to what type of strategy that we can implement for the firm. And also the means for achieving their objectives. And not forgetting the strategic management in non-profit and governmental organization. Again, in chapter 6, we're going to learn about this strategic analysis and choice. Then there you are going to learn about what are the process they require in order to determine the strategy that you want to implement. And then it is followed by the comprehensive strategy formulation framework. What are the strategy formulation framework we're going to use? And then what are the tools and techniques we're going to be used, okay, to determine which strategy that we want to implement. And also at the same time, we have to understand by evaluating those strategies that you want to implement, what is the next step is that you have to understand what are the impacts of those strategy to the culture and the politics on the strategic choice. I mean the politics of the organization. Then it's followed by the role of board of directors, because you have to understand any strategy implementation, they must get the consent of the board of directors, because the board of directors are the representative of the shareholders of the companies. Followed by the next chapter is we're going to learn about the strategy implementation. How the strategy that you had determined, you had choose in chapter 6 to be executed in management, in human resource and operational. What are the issues that might derive in the situation of when you want to implement those strategy? And then after that, we continue again to strategy implementation in the context of marketing. How are you going to implement those strategy in the functional area of marketing, accounting, R&D, and management of information system? There might be issues within it. How are you going to manage that? So you have to look into it. Next one is with regard to strategy review, evaluation, and control. When you implement strategy, along the way you need to review, evaluate, and control the situation, because you have to understand that the situation that you are in keep on changing. So in this chapter, we're going to study about the nature of strategy evaluation process. From time to time, we need to evaluate our strategy because the environment keep on changing. And then also we have to learn about a strategy evaluation framework. What are the framework required in order to evaluate those strategy? And also we're going to learn about the balance scorecard which people use in order to do the strategy evaluation. And also the characteristic of effective evaluation system. And also the contingency planning, and environmental audit at the same time. And the last chapter we're going to study is with regard to the business ethics, social responsibilities, environmental sustainability. The three areas that is very important. Business ethics, regarding what are the ethical practices that you need to uphold within the organization. Not forgetting the social responsibilities. How are you going to handle the internal community? How are you going to handle how are you going to handle the internal stakeholders, or how are you going to handle the external stakeholders in the context of social responsibilities? You see, you cannot do business for the sake of making money, but at the same time, you forget about the social responsibility. Sometimes the company might be talking about the corporate social responsibility, but is it enough? How are the impact of the corporate social responsibilities? We need to learn further about that. And not forgetting about the environmental sustainability. The environmental sustainability we're talking about is the elements of the environment. How are you going to do business by taking into account environmental sustainability should be upheld in your company's activities? Now, this is the thing that we're going to learn along this semester. I hope you understand. Okay? Next. Next. What we're going to explain with you is that excuse me. Now, I have already received the now, for our assessment, okay, for our assessment, I try to share with you in the group later on, and also your respective lecturer will also share with you with regard to this information. You're going to have two tests, test 1 and test 2. Test 1 is 15%. You have to do it in my lab. We will share with you the link later on for my lab, and you have to pay for my lab. If I'm not mistaken, it's about 50 ringgit. So you must put aside 50 ringgit fund for you to go into my lab. Okay? So most of our study here, most of the thing, the activities we're going to do, most of it will be go through my lab. For test 1, I mentioned earlier just now, 15% in my lab will be in multiple choice. Will be in multiple choice. That is 15%. Clear with me? Test 1, 15% through my lab, multiple choice. Okay? When is it going to be conducted? It depends on depend on our discussion with the faculty members. Okay? Clear?
Yes,
Number 2.
Yes, sir.
Test 2, 15%. Test 2, 15%. My lab also, you have to go my lab for test 2. But for this my lab, it will be, for test 2, will be in essay form. Will be in essay form. The 4 questions will be given. Depends on lecturer to take on question from my lab or create on their own. There will be 4 questions. And then 4 questions will be asked. You have to you answer those questions. Normally, you have no choice. You have to answer all the questions. Okay? In my lab. You have to answer the test in my lab. For test 2, 4 question essay. Clear? Any questions so far?
No, doctor.
Okay.
No, doctor.
The next one will be case study 20%. Okay? Case study 20%. It might be 2 cases from my lab, but of course we need to discuss. I need to discuss with the because the head of this subject is Mr. Harrison. So I need to discuss with Mr. Harrison and Dr. Abang Hamizam if we got the 2 cases for 20%. And also in terms of group project, also will be done also group projects. Okay, case study 20%, and the balance of it will be in the group projects. So any changes or information from time to time we will share with you in our Telegram group. Also or you might have other WhatsApp group with your respective lecturers, isn't it? Okay. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, good. Now we
No,
go back
sir.
to our syllabus. Okay, can you see the slide?
Yes.